Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. If you heard my podcast with Virginia Film Office Director Andy Edmonds on March 27th, you'll know I was the first in town with a scoop on Pharrell Williams' new film based on his childhood in Virginia Beach, although at that point, Andy could neither confirm or deny this. It's titled Atlantis, after the name of the apartment complex where he was raised. Now it's official, and shooting is projected to start May 15th and run through August 7th. As I discussed with Andy on that podcast, Virginia has a small amount of production incentive. Based on the agreement, Virginia would award the production up to $9 million plus $3.35 million for a promotional advertising campaign that would include a 2-minute video featuring Pharrell Williams. The film office estimates that the total estimated statewide economic impact could be about $84 million. This estimate projects it would include 500 crew members, 25 actors, and 2,700 extras. It'll star Kelvin Harrison Jr., Halle Bailey, and Da'Vine Joy Randolph, who just won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. The director is Michelle Gondry, best known for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, with a script by Martin Hines, who wrote Toy Story 4, and Stephen Levinson, who wrote Tick, Tick, Boom.
She called me up one time and said, "Hey, do you have a horse that a dog could ride?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Do you have a horse that a dog could ride on?" I was like, "I probably do, but nobody's ever asked me if a dog can ride a horse before." But sure enough, we put that together. And the dog rode the horse, and we actually got it where the horse could be led by the dog walking on the ground, holding the reins in his teeth. And they just thought that was unbelievable.
That was Al Underwood talking about getting a dog to ride a horse for a show. Al is the teacher of Thespian Equestrian, which helps actors learn how to ride and handle horses. He pairs up with Liquid Talent for the classes, which occur regularly in the Charlottesville area. In addition to the class, we'll talk about his work on various movies and parading with William Shatner.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Ripley on Netflix. This series starts as a questionable character, Andrew Scott, is hired by a rich man to bring his wandering son home from Italy. Once there, he gets a taste of the luxe casual lifestyle and decides to dig in. The show's first impression is the lovely locations that are shot in gorgeous black and white. The visuals are continually stunning. Meanwhile, Scott creates a character that's quietly sullen and subtly evil. The direction and editing are at a deliberate pace that details every action with plenty of observational time. Some may find this methodical approach too slow, but the show's style is what makes it most appealing. I gave Ripley 3 out of 5 stars. Al Underwood, welcome to Sifter for the Year. Where are you located?
Hey, Jerry, thanks for letting us be here. I'm located in Barbersville, Virginia, which is central Virginia, about 2 hours southwest of Washington, D.C.
Okay, out there in the country, in horse country, actually.
Actually, you're exactly right. There's everything from fox hunting down here to polo.
There we go. And the name of the experience is Thespian Equestrian, which has a nice poetic ring to it. What was the inspiration for that phrase?
It does. It came from the fact that in several film productions I was involved in, people came up to me and said, "We almost never get actors who can actually do stuff on the horses that portray their character. Why can't you set up some kind of class so you could teach people to do what you do, short of making them expert riders, just make them be able to implement their character with the horse?" I said, like thespians, but equestrians. I thought, okay, that kind of makes sense. So we just came up with that title.
That's great. And I just have to say, my own experience with horses is when I was in summer camp when I was a kid, I rode a horse, and that was the last time. So
Well, you're on par with many of your fellow cinematic folks who say, "Yeah, I've got equestrian experience." They get on set, and that's what they say. And then they say, "Okay, we're going to smoke the set. The 2 explosions. You're going to run through the explosions on horseback, swing the sword, chop this guy." And their eyes get big, and they go, "Wait a minute. I thought I just had to remember my lines and get to my mark, and not have to worry about a 1,200-pound animal that doesn't want to participate in this."
that's a great idea that you have this. So what's your background with horses? How did you get started as an equestrian?
Well, that's a good question, and it's kind of an odd story, but it matches up with what you asked about the title of the course. So I came in the Army, and I got posted initially to a place out in Arizona called Fort Huachuca. And when I got to the Army post, I noticed when they issue you your clothing, they had these posters all over the place. They had like short military haircuts, but they had all like this John Wayne garb on. They're riding horses across the beautiful, it looked like right out of a John Ford movie,
Uh-huh.
plains. And I said, well, what is that? We have one of the last horse detachments still on active service here. And if you want to join up, you just go down there, see the first sergeant. You have to do 2 weeks of additional training. But because of that training, you get qualified, and then you can do everything from riding in ceremonies and riding in parades. We go out to the LA Equestrian Festival with all the big TV stars. And we also work with the Border Patrol. So I said, wow, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do that. They give you a hand receipt and say, here's your horse, here's your equipment, here's your weapons, the whole 9 yards. I didn't know how to put the stuff together. I said, Saturday, we're going out with the Border Patrol. We're going to go up to Eagle Pass, and we're going to help them locate these mules, the druggies that bring cocaine over the mountains. What I did tell me is that I was going to be riding a horse in very difficult terrain for probably 10 to 12 hours on my first day.
Wow.
And so when I came back, I was almost unable to walk, but I saw and I kind of caught the fever. I thought, wow, this is really cool. From that experience, we got to ride in the LA Equestrian Festival. I got to meet William Shatner. I went to continue on in the Army, and then I somehow got on a list or something. And so when they filmed The Patriot and some other historic movies back in the 90s.
Now, I want to back up a second because you mentioned you met William Shatner. I did not realize he's a horse fan.
He has a string of Arabians, and
Wow.
he's originally Canadian, but yeah, I just remember because he had a very, very fancy horse, and I was riding along beside him, and we were like their escorts for this big parade, and he chatted me up a little bit.
So tell me about the experience on The Patriot.
Footnote.
The Patriot was a historical drama about the American Revolution starring Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger. It was released in 2000.
I guess this is a good time to mention that one of the things that we bring through this class is the experience I went in. So if you're an A-lister, they're going to bring you a horse that is almost like a machine. But for the majority of actors who are
By
not
that, you mean he's well trained and already knows what to do. You don't have to do anything with
Yes, sir.
it. Right.
The horse they brought for Mel Gibson, like literally, you could get on him, he'd stand perfectly still. If you just leaned forward, he would start to walk. If you sat up straight again, he would stop. And if you turned your body to look without touching the reins, the horse would turn where the pressure of your legs would, your torso, he could sense that. Just a spectacular animal. The horses they brought for everybody else, including myself, were like, okay, here's a horse, here's a horse, here's a horse, here, grab one.
Right.
The other thing too is that, when they're filming a scene, you might play 6 different roles on horseback, and they just change your costume. You may put a mustache or beard on you or something like that. And you might have 4 or 5 different horses you ride. And so you've got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
We had one scene, they said, smoke the set. Well, of course, that's a pretty normal thing. They like the horses coming through the smoke. When a thing that sounds like a lawnmower that's yelling at them and spitting and smoke is coming right in their faces, most of those horses got very antsy and basically moved off their mark and kind of went about 15, 20 feet away. And people had to hey, how do I make them, stand here?
Right.
The whole point is not to ride the horse. Like we have a lot of people say, I already know how to ride the horse. Okay. Do you know how to get the horse to act in synchronization with your character that you're portraying in the scene?
Surprise guest drop in.
Speaking of the class, somebody dropped in to say hello and talk about the class a little bit.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It's good to talk to you. Sherry, first of all, tell us who you are, why you're here, and then how you work with Al.
Wow, great question. So, hey, I'm Sherry Bias. I am the owner and director of Liquid Talent Agency. We are based there in Richmond. Actually, we just moved offices. We're on Hall Street now. So we provide casting and talent services for commercials, feature films, TV shows. We do print work and we do voiceover. And my goodness, Al, we've known each other for how many years now? It's been a little bit, right?
It has. It's been a while.
Before we ask about the class, Sherry, I want to ask you, doctor, what is that about? What kind of doctorate do you have?
I have a doctorate and PhD in human resources, which this is a people business. If you think about it, talent and casting, it's all about the people and understanding, the rules and how we play in this particular space in the entertainment industry. But I've worked in multiple other industries, including Anheuser-Busch, Philip Morris, Pricewaterhouse. And I've landed here because I found that this is really my passion in working with people in the entertainment business. And as Al mentioned, doing things a little differently, bringing ethics and integrity and just having the personal touch to the services that we offer.
Now, how did you two get connected and decide to start these classes?
Well, I guess from my perspective, we started class because we were filming at the State Farm. I can't remember what movie it was, but Sherry was a casting director, and there were hundreds of people out there. And I remember I did some horse scene and rode back and forth and yelled some commands and provided some horses, and I was a wrangler as well.
I think, was it Field of Lost Shoes? I think that we were on.
It was that one. It was that one.
Yes.
Footnote.
Field of Lost Shoes was shot in 2015 about a group of VMI cadets who served in the Civil War.
And absolutely, my clients then started coming to me wanting people who were trained.
Sherry, we probably have a couple of hundred people at least that we've trained over the last few years, and many of them have gotten callbacks.
We just did the broadcast with the person you trained, Al, on the Alpo shoot. We had a nationwide shoot for Alpo. He and I usually collaborate together and say, who would we recommend, or at least want to make sure that the client sees, and making sure that that person's trained. Because and Al, this is your bailiwick, but I'm sure it can be a dangerous thing being on horseback and then also having to act out these scenes. So we want to ensure safety first, but then again, providing great recommendations to our clients.
So Sherry, question for you. How are you on a horse?
Honestly, I get motion sick on a horse. I do. So I leave that to Al and his expertise.
Okay. He hadn't tried to figure out a way to make that not happen?
No.
I would say too, Sherry gets some very interesting work. She called me up one time and said, hey, do you have a horse that a dog could ride? And I was like, what? She said, do you have a horse that a dog could ride on? I was like, I probably do, but nobody's ever asked me if a dog can ride a horse before. But sure enough, we put that together and the dog rode the horse, and we actually got it where the horse could be led by the dog walking on the ground, holding the reins in his teeth. And They just thought that was unbelievable. Now, of course, that was a well-trained dog and a well-trained horse, but something I had never even thought was possible, to have a dog riding on a horse.
Yeah. So not only do we do real people casting, but we also cast for animals, dogs, cats. We've done rats. In addition to people, we do a lot with people.
Yeah. So Sherry, what would you, if you've got an actor out there listening and they think, well, I don't have any plans to ride a horse in any shows, any auditions or anything, what advice would you give them on why they might want to consider it, or what they're going to learn other than what you've already said?
We offer a variety of different courses, different resources, and you never know until you try, honestly. We've had people who hadn't intended to do this at all and then came away with giving us great testimonials of why they thought it was important and just what they've gotten out of it. One of the newer offerings, and Al, I'll let you speak to some of the details, but it's a cinematic cattle class.
Cowboy,
not cattle, cowboy.
But
so
with
we've
cattle.
got with cattle. We're also working with a production company to do some demo reel taping while they're actually on the horses, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
So we're trying to hit, building knowledge, skills, and abilities in a variety of different capacities.
We don't make you an expert horse rider in a few hours, but what we do is give you the skills so that you can hit your mark, deliver your lines, and look like you are perfectly comfortable and synchronized on that animal. But it's only through Liquid Talent. There's nobody else that offers this that's that kind of progressive and that kind of insightful to say, here's something out of the norm that probably would be useful for a lot of folks. Let's invest in these individuals.
Well, thanks for the great words for sharing. Sherry, I guess that gives you a nice little shout out there so you can have your finale and your farewell.
Thank you so much, Al. And I definitely appreciate the partnership. At any time, I'm always available. If anybody has questions, just pick up the phone and give me a call. But appreciate the opportunity as well, Jerry. And I will drop off.
And we will let you ride off to the west. And I'll put
awesome.
in some
Thank you guys.
clumps there. So, Al, you said you had some other stories. Tell us some more fun stories about some things that have happened on sets, good or bad.
Well, I've got quite a few, but I guess
tell me the really good ones.
The really good ones are, everybody said, okay, stand by. And all of a sudden the guy, everybody thought he was having a heart attack. They called the EMTs and he's yelling, stop, stop, stop. And of course, we're thinking, what in the world happened? The guy is on the horse. He's in the background. Peter runs over and says, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? He says, my foot came out of the stirrup. And of course, everybody kind of looks at me like, well, what does he do? I say, well, he just puts his foot back in the stirrup.
That much I could figure out.
But again, this is his first time on the horse. He had a big role. He was a feature character.
Wow.
But he had never been on a horse before. So suddenly it was a terrifying thing for him.
Can I ask you who that was, or is that?
I probably not better say because it would be embarrassing for him.
Okay.
But one of the best stories is a young man we had trained, and he said, "Hey, this is your mark. You're going to come in. We want you to come fast." He fully embraced that, gave that horse the right cue. The horse ran in right to the middle of the frame, stood up. You could tell he caught his breath, huffed right out, gave his lines, walked off the set, and they were so impressed. I'm like, that was wonderful because he showed the intensity of his character through the motions of the animal. And so, of course, he got called back and he got more opportunities.
Do you have an example of a show that you were working on, and obviously you do ride horses, that was really challenging for you?
So the one we did, I think was called The Mysteries of History. It was a TV series. They put a camera on the back of a truck on a stabilizer, and they usually have one that's up high, and then they have one down low up the bumper of a truck. And the director told me, he said, "We have a special camera here that's going to take 120 frames a second. And we want to see the intensity of this horse running hard with you on him." So they put me in a big black cape. I was supposed to be some scary guy. And he says, "I want this horse's nostrils 18 inches from the camera. We want to have his hooves because that'll pick up the sparks as they're hitting the gravel. And then I want his nose 18 inches from the camera up on top." So they did. They hit the gas. My horse Ranger, who's a movie stunt horse that you ride from the class, he followed that thing, and I kept his nose, I mean, literally just a little bit more than a hand off that camera. But it was amazing to see what they were able to pick up from that cameraman, because you could see literally the wind blowing in that horse's face, every hair moving,
Right.
the snot coming out of his nose when he's running so hard. It's challenging to keep the horses right on that mark at that speed, at that motion, but it made for a great, great picture. And I remember they called me back and said, "Hey, that was so cool. That's going to be part of our intro scene for every episode." I was like, "Oh, well,
Wow.
good."
Terrific. Since you were in that on camera, do you ever get recognized? Do your face ever show up? Or are you always kind of like in the background or sideways or something so we can't tell it's Al Underwood?
Generally, that's the case. But on a couple of times, my face in the camera, I portray a specific character. But generally, it's we're going to have an explosion. The hero's going to ride through. So you ride the horse up, put on the guy's stuff, or blow the explosion, jump the horse through the explosion, stop on his side, pull out the sword, change roles. The hero guy gets on the horse, hold the sword up, same pose, boom, and we'll take it from there.
Who have you done that for? Anybody we would know?
Well, the A-listers, always have to sign an NDA. The historic films that we work on are kind of the local things, and they're not big Hollywood productions.
Now, this is weird, and they probably have other stunt writers can do this, but have you ever had to put on a long wig and be a woman?
Yes, I've been a woman. I've been deaf a couple of times.
Have you ever gotten to deliver a line on camera?
Oh, sure. And then we're also going to teach you to do some pretty cool stuff that you can use your acting career in the Westerns, which is Native American Sign Language. I'm one of the probably 100 of the only people left in the country who can actually communicate as Native Americans did hundreds of years ago. And it was pretty much ubiquitous across the whole nation. I guess the other thing I just want to close with is we have a kind of a bonus because you invited me to do this, Jerry. A lot of actors we get to play the equestrian roles also need firearms training, because it's inherent that if you get on the horse, you're going to ride the horse and do something, usually with action, a sword, a gun, a lance, a stick, you're going to wave.
Cinema cowboy, how is that different from just riding a horse? Is that where you start wrangling and dealing with cows?
Yeah, cinematic cowboy. So it's actually teaching you a cowboy skill. So you have to have had the basic course first. We'll teach you how to ride the horse around the cattle, because sometimes those cattle come after you, and the horse has to be able to respond to that without you getting knocked down. On a private 2,500-acre ranch where they have hundreds and hundreds of cows, we're going to actually move those cows around, and then we'll teach you how to rope. So, when you get that call and say, "Hey, we want you in Yellowstone," or "We want you in 1923," or whatever the film is, and then we'll also teach you, this is very, very important, how to look like a cowboy on a horse, because cowboys get on horses differently. They control their horses differently. When they get off their horses, they do some unique things that you can tell if it's a real cowboy or if it's just somebody who is on the horse. But it's pretty cool. You'll actually go on a little cattle drive. You'll actually sort some cattle and do some kind of rodeo, not dangerous rodeo stuff, but some basic rodeo stuff to give you that experience you need to be successful on camera.
Great, cool. Now you mentioned Yellowstone, which I watched every episode, 1923, all of those. So when you're not out there dealing with horses, what do you like to watch? What have you been watching lately?
I do like the old Westerns. That's just kind of what I grew up with. Grandpa used to watch High Chaparral with us every whatever night it was. And I also like any kind of, I do appreciate any kind of film that has good equestrian scenes. It's not that makes the movie, But as you know, if you want to bring an epic proportion to a film and you get a bunch of horses doing just what they're supposed to do on cue, and you can capture that, very few people have experienced that in the last 150 years. So to get that on film is terribly valuable, and it's an exhilarating thing to see. So I really like watching those kind of films. And of course, once in a while I get to see some of the folks I've worked with and go, hey, I recognize that guy.
That's
I recognize
cool.
her.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
What do you think about Yellowstone and the other spinoffs of that group? How are they as cowboys?
They're doing pretty well. I mean, just like many of those big films, they'll bring genuine cowboys from Montana or Wyoming who do that for a living. And then they'll give some similar kind of classes. We're the only ones that do it around here on the East Coast.
Well, Al, this has been fascinating. I can promise you I will not be taking one of those classes, but they sound really wonderful, and I'm sure they're really a valuable tool for the people who take them. So thanks so much for sharing it with us today.
Thanks, Jerry. Have a great day, and thank you for what you do for the community to just share kind of opportunities and lessons learned with folks. That's a great benefit. So thanks again.
That was Al Underwood, who teaches a class called Thespian Equestrian, which helps actors learn how to ride horses. He pairs up with Liquid Talent for these classes, and there's a link to the next session, which is on May 24th and 25th, on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
Coming soon. In theaters.
The Fall Guy. Ryan Gosling plays a stuntman who finds himself involved with the director, Emily Blunt, and the stunts look incredible, from the director of Bullet Train. Tarot. This week's horror flick revolves around a group of friends who violate the rules of tarot card reading and unleash the inevitable deadly spirit.
TV and streaming.
The Idea of You on Prime. Anne Hathaway plays a single mom who finds herself in a romance with a young pop star, played by Nicholas Galitzine. The Veil on Hulu. Elizabeth Moss stars in this thriller that revolves around a deadly game of truth and lie. Hacks on Max. Oh, that rhymes. Returns with Gene Smart as the Vegas legend and Hannah Einbender as the young new writer. Unfrosted on Netflix. Jerry Seinfeld heads the cast, also wrote and directed this mostly true story about the creation of the Pop-Tart. It also includes Christian Slater, Jim Gaffigan, Amy Schumer, and Hugh Grant. Acapulco on Apple. The comedy about a resort in Los Colinos returns for season 3. Next week, we'll finally catch up with Mark Lambert, who started his career writing special effects code for Pixar and other major movies. He's now working in virtual reality, and we'll hear about his wonderful special effects adventures. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.